مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Nullifiers? Okay, we'll go straight to the nullifiers. We mentioned the exemptions. Temporary exemption, permanent exemptions. Alright, it's okay, good. I'll go to the Alright. We mentioned anything about okay. Suhoor, we just touch on what? The timings, right? The timings for what? For salah, not for salah, but for fasting. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions clearly the timings for what? Sawm and fasting in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned Kulu wa sharabu hatta yatabayyana lakum al-khayt al-abyad min al-khayt al-aswadi min al-fajr. This is where the break of dawn, the fasting is start. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned eat and drink until what? The break of dawn appears. Meaning what? At the time of the break of dawn, this is where the fast starts. So you stop eating before the break of dawn enters. Right? And that fast continues. ثُمَّ أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. And that what? Fast continues until layl, until what? Night. Night comes with what? With sunset. Right? So this is what? Fasting. Right? To refrain from the muftirat, the nullifiers of fast from the break of dawn until sunset. If any of the nullifiers were to occur, even for a moment within what? These two limits, then that fast will be nullified. That person will have to do qadha. And we mentioned earlier, every single fast that has been broken, what, mistakenly, right, accidentally, or even for a valid reason, sickness, whatever, that person what? He has to refrain from eating and drinking until what? Until sunset also. And yes, he will have to do what? Qadha. Alright? It's not that a person fasts, I'm not fasting today, my fast already broken, so he's eating and drinking. No. That person not allowed to eat and drink. Alright? He what? Yushbih or yushabbih bisa'imin. He imitates what? Those who are fasting. Alright? Except he will still have to make up for that day. Alright? Except in the case of what? For example, a menstruating woman, right? A woman who's experiencing her menstrual cycle, then it is allowed for her to eat, right? It is allowed for her to eat. It's not like, okay, she has to refrain from eating and drinking until sunset. No, it is allowed for her to eat, except that she should not do it in public, right? A traveler also, if he chooses what? A musafir, if he chooses not to fast, right? Then he's allowed to eat, all right? He's allowed to eat because he has concession, except that should not be done in the public. We're speaking about a person who fast became nullified accidentally, what? Some water went down accidentally, something slipped down his throat, alright? Then that person, he what? His fast is broken, yes, he has to do qadha, but he still has to refrain from eating and drinking until the break of, until what? Sunset. Similarly, a menstruating woman who what? Became clean and tahir during the day of Ramadan, right? During the days of Ramadan, the daytime, she becomes clean, that cycle comes to an end, then she has to do qadha for that day and all the days that went when she was not she was in her days, except that she has to refrain from eating and drinking also until sunset. Alright? So but understand the ghusl part would come in, right? She will have to do what? Ghusl in order for what? Salah, to perform salah, right? So she cannot what? She cannot what? Deliberately delay the ghusl, causing a salah time to expire. So it'll just be a short time anyhow, except in the morning, right? Normally what? That rule will come into effect after what? After ghusl, right? After ghusl. Now, we spoke about what calendars? Ramadan calendars? No. So many people normally ask the question, throughout the year we use a calendar. Ramadan time now we have a special calendar. But it's the same calendar we use it to call the adhan and for Salatul Maghrib. So why is the need for a special calendar in the month of Ramadan? Alright? I don't fully have that issue over here. Alright? Time for Ramadan, we look at the calendar, not on Ramadan. Time for Salatul Maghrib, we look at the calendar, we call the adhan. Right? And we pray. Time for Ramadan, now we have a special calendar. So does the sun will operate differently in the month of Ramadan? No. But understand there's a concept that is what? A concept of precaution. Right? But understand what does this mean? Precaution. Right? Does it mean that we are only precautious in fasting and not precautious in salah? No, understand? If a person were to what? Perform Salatul Maghrib, right? A few minutes after what? Sunset, 5 minutes after sunset, then that is okay. No problem. There is no issue in that. If you perform Salatul Maghrib 10 minutes, right? That is okay, right? He has until when? Until what? Salatul Isha comes in, but he should not delay, alright? But waiting a few minutes, that doesn't cause any karaha and doesn't make it within makruh and dislike. But if a person what? Breaks his fast 1 minute before sunset, then what happens to his entire fast? It becomes nullified and he has to do qadha, alright? If a person starts to eat in the morning and he enters what? Just 1 minute after the break of dawn, his entire fast becomes nullified and he has to do what? Qadha. So hence what? Precaution. Yes, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam with regards to what? Two things. Suhoor, what we call sahri. Suhoor and what? Iftar. Right? The sunnah, there's two sunnah in what? With regards to suhoor. One is actually partaking of the suhoor and one is what? Partaking of the suhoor at a latter time. Right? Closer to the break of dawn. Not you eating 2 o'clock in the morning. Some people eating the night before the morning. Are eating a good dinner or eating good before sleep, so this is suhoor. No. The barakah is in suhoor and that barakah is what? Closer to the break of dawn. Alright? And even though a person what? The hadith mentioned, even though a person what? At that time a person not accustomed fasting, then to eat in the morning sometimes it's difficult. Even water tastes bitter in the morning if a person not accustomed. Alright? So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned is, listen, even when as if a person want to take a sip of water self, meaning what? Take something for suhoor. This is the barakah. Right? This is because the barakah of this a person fast would be easy. Right? Take a sip of, meaning what? Take something small. Right? And to break the fast in the evening, what? To hasten and break the fast, but to ensure that the time has entered. Right? To ensure that what? The time has entered. We mentioned earlier when we spoke about the salah timings. That is about 10 years ago when we was doing what? Kitab Salah. When I said 10 years, in the beginning, we spoke about the rules related to salah, and we spoke about salah timing. Understand? These, if you look at many masjid, you'll see what? A perpetual fixed timing. Alright? Solar timing. Understand? Every year what? We look for what? New calendars. Right? Islamic calendars. Hey, you have anybody a calendar for this year? Understand? Today is what? The 12th of February. The 12th of February, the solar timings today. Next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, it's going to be the same timing. They're not going to change. Alright? These solar times not going to change at all. Right? It's fixed. That's why it says, okay, fixed charts, fixed any solar timings, perpetual solar times we have in a certain masjid. That will change. Right? Except that we did some research. I personally did some research on that. Little Trinidad, we have at least what? 2 minutes, 2 to 2.5 minutes in what? Variation in solar timing. You understand? If what? That reading was, that was taken in Port of Spain, it differed from that in San Fernando and Scarborough. Right? So understand the difference in what? The solar timing when the sun actually set, right? The movement of the sun, right? There's a variation between what? 2 to 2.5 minutes. So when you see what? These perpetual solar timings, right? Then what? Where exactly they got the timings from? Is it in Port of Spain, Scarborough, Marbella? Where? Right? So for example, if you have what? a reading taken, we did one over here, what year did this? 2016, right? 2016, what date was this? Yeah, Monday the 13th. The 13th of June, 2016. Sunset in Port of Spain was 6:28. San Fernando, 6 what? 27. Scarborough, 6:26. 26, 27, 28. Right? So now if, for example, what? We use what? A person in Port of Spain, and he used it, and that calendar was based on what? Readings from Scarborough. That's about 2 minutes. Right? So if you use that now and break your fast 1 minute or 2 minutes, you're in Port of Spain. Right? There's 2 minutes later than what? Than Scarborough. You break your fast using that time, and then what? Your fast nullified. You have to what? Do cover off the entire fast. Right? These calendars that has been printed, right? I mean, you would know the Barako Islamic Center seen over there where the the timings from. But we know the one that is printed by Meccan printers, I don't know if it's the same. They have what you have, you need some precautionary time added to that from the solar, any perpetual calendar, right? They would have a few minutes added to it, right? And that few minutes, that is good. Why? Because it takes into consideration these variation, right? These variation. But the issue with that calendar, that what? Islamic calendar that everybody get every year, right? The issue with that is what? Understand? That is for solar timings, right? So precaution, to be precautious with regards to solar timing is what? Actually waiting a few minutes before, a few minutes after the time has entered. For example, what if the solar calendar mentioned what? 6:30, they would put 6:33, right? So you have 3 minutes inside. So you know for sure, taking all the variations into consideration, 6:33, that is that timing is what? That is sunset then. It may be what? A minute more, that is okay, right? 2 minutes more, that is okay, right? But at least you know the sunset at that time, all right? So you could what? Break your fast. But that same calendar, with regards to Salatul Fajr, the precaution for Salatul Fajr would be what? Would be a few minutes after the break of dawn. You understand? It would be a few minutes, after the break of dawn. If it a few minutes from the what? The perpetual solar timing, it would be a few minutes afterwards. For example, if on that calendar they mentioned 4:30 is the break of dawn, this calendar would add a 3. Before 33 they would put the break of dawn. So ensure what? 3 minutes in over there. So now, if we were to use that Islamic calendar that we have to start your fast, then you'd be in trouble. Why? Because precaution in fasting, what it demands, and a different precaution that Salah demands. Precaution in what? Stopping is not 3 minutes after the break of dawn. You want that calendar what? 3 minutes before. Right? 3 minutes after the actual what? Break of dawn. You want 3 minutes before that. Hey, we're stopping at that time. Alright? So hence the reason you have these what? These Ramadan what? Calendars that normally go with Ramadan timetable, which is really good to follow. Right? The ones that we have, right? The Islamic calendars that go to break your fast. Right? Why? Because normally, understand, these are Ramadan timetable that they print, right? Even outside the Jamia also, right? There's what? Precaution upon precaution. You have some calendars you have what? At least 7 minutes after sunset. Well, you waiting 7 minutes after sunset to actually break your fast, right? If you know exactly, listen, this is the time for sunset, right? You break your fast. Understand, there's no virtue in waiting a 5 minutes extra when you know the sun already set, right? As opposed to what? The break of dawn. Right, it's better to use what? That what? Ramadan timetable. Why? Because it has it. Stop eating. That stop eating is actually about 3 minutes or 5 minutes before the actual break of dawn to ensure that what? Listen. Right? You're safe. Right, so now we're speaking about the concept of eating. What we mentioned, what if the nullifiers of fast were to occur between these two extremes, then the fast will be nullified. Alright, except the whole concept of forgetfulness. Understand? Eating forgetfully, drinking forgetfully. What does that mean? Listen, when you eat, You know that you're eating. You don't forget that you're eating. When you drink, you know that you're drinking, but what you actually forget? A person forgets that he is what? Fasting. He knows that he is eating. He knows that he is drinking, but he forgets that he is what? Fasting. So if a person eats, forgetting that he is fasting, he drinks, forgetting that he is fasting, then his fast is still valid. That doesn't nullify the fast. That doesn't nullify the fast. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and he mentioned that what he was fasting and he ate and he drank, forgetting that he was fasting. Nabi alayhi salam mentioned, At'amakallah wa saqaq. Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you food and He has given you drink. Meaning what? That is from Allah. That is sustenance. The fast is not nullified. Understand? The fast is not nullified. But understand, the moment that person remembers, he must what? Refrain. Spit it out. Right? All that is remaining is what? To swallow. And he remembers. Khalas. If he remembers and he swallows, then his fast is nullified. Alright? So long as what? Listen, and then it is be happy, good times, right? Sometimes what, you think you can't make it, you have to break your fast, it's so hard, right? You're so thirsty, right? And understand, you're doing something forgetfully, that is not on your own accord, and you just what, eat and you drink, or you drink something, and then you remember you're fasting. That is from Allah. That is your sustenance, that is your risk. You didn't do it what? Willfully, right? So that person fast is still what? Valid. Fast is not nullified. And same goes to what? Except this could be a little technical, but the same ruling for marital relation. If a man, what? Woman, husband and wife, they do that action, right? Forgetfully, then the fast is still valid, right? But the question is, okay, we understand one forget, I don't understand how the two could forget at the same time, right? But if it is done forgetfully, then the fast is still valid, right? The fast is still valid. Right, so here now, there's nothing hard and fast, nothing explicitly mentioned in the Sharia that you have to stop, right? Khalas, leave the man, let him eat, right? Let him eat. Hey, you're fasting, think about it, listen. If he is doing something to break the fast, right? Something he is doing that could jeopardize his fast. Yes, you mentioned to him. But if a person eats, right? And that is done what? Forgetfully, then his fast is still valid, right? So you don't remind that person, leave him. Unless you know he doing that willfully, right? But generally a person would not do that willfully. It's not for us to say, hey, brother, you're fasting, right? That allowance there. Understand the difference between what? Doing something for a nullifying factor occurring during fasting and during another act of ibadah. There's a big difference. There's when a person is fasting, there's nothing that reminds a person that he's fasting, right? Why? You could sleep, you could walk, you could work, everything you normally do, you're doing while you're fasting. So nothing what the ulama mentioned, laysa hunaka mudhakkira. There's nothing that reminds that person that he's fasting. So if a nullifying factor were to occur, and that person were to do it forgetting that he is fasting, the fast is still valid. As opposed to salah, for example. What nullifies salah? Eating, drinking, speaking. Alright? But if a person were to eat or drink or speak forgetfully, in the sense that what? He forgot that he's in salah, his salah would be nullified. Why? Because every posture in salah, it reminds that person is in salah. You have what? Qiyam, ruku, sajda. And every posture you have what a person recites, right? There's no posture in salah, person just remain quiet, right? And a person just don't bend normally or go down and forehead touch the ground. No, he's making sajda. So every posture in salah reminds a person that what? He is in salah. So if any of these nullifying factor were to occur, and even though the person mentioned, okay, I forgot that I was in salah, the salah is still what? Nullified. Right. As for what? Intention, understand? You'll see many what? Charts printed, the intention to start fast, right? The dua to start fast. Understand? There's no dua to start fast, right? There's no dua from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam what to start the fast, right? That person what? Intention comes from the heart. So all you see in any inni nawaitu sawma ghadin lillahi ta'ala, there's no mention of this what? In the books of ahadith, right? Yes, the books of fiqh mention, right? And this is a condition for the validity of every single ibadah, that what a person has intention. He has niyyah, right? Except what a person's niyyah is in his heart. He intends to what? Fast. He doesn't have to utter, right? Oh Allah, I intend to fast tomorrow, right? Understand? The moment you break your fast, right? And we intend to fast the next day. You wake up in the morning and you eat it. You just do that every day? No. So that partaking of suhoor is what your intention to fast, right? So that intention always there. But if a person wants to mention, oh Allah, I intend to fast, khalas, that is okay if he wants, but that is not a condition, right? And that is not what considered to be a sunnah act anyhow, right? A person coming to the masjid, right? You're coming to the masjid, Salatul Maghrib going on, right? So what are you coming to do then? And your intent is to perform Salatul Maghrib, so you don't have to stand and mention, oh Allah, I intend to perform Salatul Maghrib behind this Imam with my... if you want to do it, okay, no problem, right? But that is not what your intention is in your heart, right? So much of a person, what? He enters the masjid and the Imam is in ruku'. Nabi alayhi salam mentioned, man adraka ar-ruku' faqad adraka ar-raka'ah. A person gets the ruku', he gets the entire raka'ah. He gets the, understand, he didn't get Fatiha, he didn't get that whole Qiyam and Fatiha and Surah, he didn't get that. But what he got the ruku'. Nabi Isa mentioned if you get the ruku', you get the entire rak'ah. Now this person standing, Allahumma inni wajahtu wajhiya lilladhi fatara as-samawati wal arda, oh Allah, I intend to, and the man done raise some ruku'. You miss a whole rak'ah, boy. You miss a whole rak'ah, right? You miss the rewards for a whole rak'ah. Your intent was already what? Your intention is to perform Salatul Maghrib. So that is in your heart, right? Understand? And what is in your heart is considered. That is considered. The fuqaha, the jurists, they mention, if a person in his heart, he intends to perform Salatul Maghrib, right? And he would mistakenly utters Salatul Asr, then that would be what? That would not be considered. What he have in his heart will take what precedence? So it shows that what is primary is what? What he has in his heart. Right? And understand, the fast automatically is broken at sunset, right? For example, if sunset is what, 6:20, these we have 20 around, they have it, right? 19, 20, right? Ramadan time, right? 6:20. So if a person what, he eats at 7 o'clock, what happens? Your fast still broken. You understand? Your fast broken since 6:20, right? You cannot prolong your fasting till what? 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned that fasting, that cutoff time is what? Is sunset, right? So if you what? You break your fast, you eat 8 o'clock in the night, your fast 20 past 6, your fast already broken. But the blessings and the barakah is what? Eating, right? Actually eating, physically eating when that time comes in, right? So and that is what? That is the sunnah is to what? Hasten and break the fast. Hasten what? And break the fast means to physically eat when what? The sunset has come in. That is the sunnah. Alright? So you understand, the more precaution over here is actually what? In the morning time. Right? Be precautious in the morning. In the evening time, you know exactly when the sun set anyhow. These calendars, the normal Islamic calendars, they could use that. Right? Alright, suhoor, bas. Now we're going to speak about the nullifiers of fast, right? The nullifiers of, what nullifies fast? We normally what? Print these 100 masail, 100 laws relating to fasting every Monday at the Jamia, right? But these rulings, alright, these rulings are based on what? Two principles, right? This is a research document for what? Those 100 masail. And with that, with these two principles, understand, you would understand 100, 200, 300 what laws. Alright? These are the principles. Fast, right? The fast is only nullified based on what? Two invalidating principles, right? There are two principles upon which the fast is what? Nullified. And if you understand these two principles, then on your own you will be able to know, okay, the fast is valid or not, right? So this class, this portion, this part over here is not just a listening, right? You need to understand that, right? And will benefit you for your entire life. And from these two principles, the first one, 95% of all the laws connected to what? If a fast is nullified or not is based on this first principle, right? Which is Wusul al-muftir ila jawfil badan. I'll summarize everything, I'll summarize that. The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into what? The cavity of the body. Right? The entrance of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body. The cavities of the body here we are speaking about three cavities that form the digestive tract. The throat, the stomach and the intestine. The entrance, the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body, which is the throat, the stomach and the intestine. What is a fast-breaking agent? What nullifies the fast? We have matter, right? Solid, liquid and we have gas. All solid, all liquids, right? If it were to enter any of these three compartments, it will nullify the fast. As for gases, if the gas the gas is what? It has a perceptible body, like smoke, dust, right? Cement dust, sawdust. This type of what? That would nullify. The normal oxygen or the rose that you smell, the ether or the paint or the perfume, that doesn't nullify, right? That doesn't have a perceptible body. Alright, so all solid, all liquid, and gas that has a body, a perceptible body, that would what? That is a fast-breaking agent. So the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into any of the three cavities, right? Through what? A valid entrance, right? A valid entrance. Valid entrance, we speak about the mouth and the nose. The mouth would what? Lead to the throat, the nose would lead to the throat. Alright? And what? The intestine via what? The rectum. So these are what? The three valid entry points, right? Medicine through the rectum, right? Anything inserted there, that would nullify the fast. Alright? So the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of what? The body through a valid entry point. That nullifies the fast. Right? Notice we didn't mention eating or drinking or this, right? This nullifies the fast. The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into any of the three cavities of the body, the throat, the stomach, the intestine, via any of these valid entry points, the mouth and the nose, and the rectum in the case of the intestine. That will nullify the fast, right? And there are a few exceptions to the rule. So if you understand the exception, understand the principle, and then understand the exception, then 95% of what you could ever think about would nullify the fast or not, you would understand. Alright, you would know. Alright. So if you could just run through the exception to the rule, meaning these are exception. If this were to happen, even though you get the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body via a valid entry point, it will not nullify based on these exceptions over here, right? So we'll go straight to the exception to the rule, right? Adhan, forget Adhan. Salah is 35, right? So we could go 30, 33, 34, right? Normally those mentioned who always give you a timing on the Adhan, they're not here, so we could go ahead. Right. So the first exception to the rule, forgetfulness, we just mentioned that. The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body, but if that was done forgetfully, a person ate forgetfully, drank forgetfully, his fast is still valid. So you get the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity, except it was done forgetfully. The second one is we run through it fast. The second exception to the rule is unavoidable substances. For example, a person dust, smoke, right? You're going through the streets, right? The dust and smoke, and a person what? It enters, right? It enters what? The body, it enters what? The cavity, but this was something unavoidable, right? You have to walk, you have to move, right? So if a person would pass through the streets and all these fumes and whatever, bushfire, whatever, and you have to pass, and yes, and the smoke enters, that will not nullify the fast, right? That is what comes under unavoidable substance. You're speaking and a fly he just gone straight inside your mouth, inside the throat. These things are what the unavoidable, any substances does not nullify the fast, unless it is what taken deliberately. You go by the barbecue pit, the man barbecuing, and you what? Barbecue man come as soon as, right? As soon what? And he was just inhaling the smoke like that, deliberately inhaling the smoke. Okay, that would nullify, but if it just pass, right? Or even your barbecue itself, better put on a mask, right? But even your barbecue itself and what? Yes, you're breathing normal, but you're not deliberately inhaling that, right? So once it is not done deliberately, the fast is what? Still valid, right? So 1, 2. The third exception is what? Saliva, right? Saliva in the mouth. Saliva, the mouth has what? It has the ruling of what? An external organ and what? An internal organ. If you look at the laws of the Sharia, you see at times the mouth, it has a ruling of what? The ruling of being an external organ, and at times the ruling of being an internal organ. Right? External organ, for example, what? If a person has to take a ghusl, then he has to wash the outer body. Right? He has to wash every part of the outer body. Right? And including that is what? The mouth and the nostril. So we see here now what? The mouth, it has a ruling of being a outer organ. Alright? External organ. But with regards to fasting, we see if a person was to swallow his saliva, his fast is not nullified. Why? Because nothing from outside coming inside. Inside. Right? So the fast is not nullified. Right? Take it up here, and even though you bring it down like that, right? That itself is what? Mucus, right? Saliva, that is a fast breaking agent, except what? Nothing from outside coming inside. There's some inside. That does nullify the fast. Unless a person takes it out of his mouth, re-enters it in his mouth and swallow, that would nullify the fast. Alright? Why? Because it comes from outside, the entrance of or the reaching of a fast breaking agent. Okay, that would nullify. Now, the ruling here now, the Jews have mentioned those what? Items what? Or substances found in the mouth, right? And produced by the mouth, that will not nullify the fast. Alright? Mucus, saliva, this, that. Even though a person what? Fills the whole mouth and swallow, the fast is not nullified. Alright? Items found in the mouth that is not part of the mouth. For example, what? Food stuck between the teeth from the break of dawn. Alright? Stuck between the teeth. Now, the Jews, they've mentioned, listen, if it is a little amount that is pardonable, if it is a large amount, right, then it will, and it is swallowed, it will nullify the fast, right? And the books of Fiqh mention hummus. Hummus is like what? A small what? Chana, right? And what? Listen, in Trinidad, they take two of these, half a dal, they put it together and put a little coating over it around that size, right? That will nullify. Less than that is what? Will not nullify, right? But if a person, even though that partner mouth, it is pardonable, he takes it out of his mouth, re-enters, and he swallows it, then it will nullify the fast. Alright? So, we have 1, 2, 3 exception, right? Just remember the exceptions, and we're going. Vomit. A person, that person vomits, right? The vomit wasn't what? Intentional. He didn't induce the vomit. A person vomits, right? And it entered, it went back inside unintentionally, right? Just a little come up and it just went down back. Reflex. He didn't what? Deliberately swallow it, right? So even though we have what? That is a fast breaking agent going into what? Going into what? The stomach, the cavity, that will generally nullify the fast. But this is an exception to the rule, and the condition here is what? that person, he does not deliberately swallow it. Alright, he doesn't deliberately swallow it. It goes down back. Alright. Ramadan time, many people ask the question about what? Acid reflux. They taste it. Boy, Salah, you need middle of Salah. You're fasting. Sometimes you're not fasting, but the middle of Salah also what? What are you going to do? You could swallow. And understand, acid reflux doesn't really, most of the time, it doesn't really come into what? The cavity of the mouth. Right? Your tongue, at the end of your throat, you taste all of that. Right? At that part of your throat here, this is you can taste some oil here. Right? That is why sometimes when people put what? Medicine in the eye, you're tasting it, you don't taste it in your throat. Right? But that tongue all the way down over here, that's how you taste it. Right? So this is where the acid reflux normally what? A person tastes it. Right? So that doesn't really enter the cavity of the mouth. Right? So that doesn't what? Nullify the fast. Right? That's A, B, C, D. E, applying what? Medicine to the eye. Understand, we mentioned if what? If any fast-breaking agent enters the cavity of the body through any valid entry point, it will nullify the fast. We mentioned the valid entry points are what? The mouth, the nose, and the rectum. But understand there's a duct, D-U-C-T, from the eye to the throat. Right? From the eye to the throat. As we just mentioned, sometimes person apply what? Kuhol, right? Medicine to the eye, surma, whatever medicine, the eye drop, and they could at times they taste it. Why? Because there's a direct what? Passage, a valid entry point, right? A valid passage through the throat, right? So, but this is an exception to the rule based on the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Kana Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam yaktahilu wa huwa sa'im. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he would at times he would apply what? Medicine in his eye while he is fasting. So even though the principle shows that okay, that would nullify the fast, we leave that principle based on what the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That is an exception to the rule. Right? That is what? An exception to the rule. Right? And we speak about what? Kuhul. Understand? The sunnah is to apply what? Kuhul, medicine to the eye. Right? That is the sunnah. And by applying what? Medicine to the eye, what normally happens? Yes. As a result of that, you're going to have what? The blackness of what? The surma, the kuhul, right? The ithmid, the Prophet ﷺ used to use, this is the name of what? If you go in Saudi, you'll see it, they sell it, right? Ithmid, right? That rock. And you will apply that in his eye. And this is the sunnah, right? And many of the time, the Prophet ﷺ used to what? Apply that before he sleep, alright? And yes, you're going to have what? Asar, yani some remnants in the eye. And this is the sunnah, nothing wrong with that, right? But the sunnah is not to put what? For men to put eyeliner in their eyes. Sometimes people feel, okay, the sunnah is to blacken your eye. Right? So we take eyeliner, something black, and put it in the eyes, the Eid time, Jummah time. That is not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? That is what? That is not the sunnah. The sunnah is not to blacken the eye. It's to medicate the eye. Right? Put medicine in the eye, right? In the form of any ithmid, surma. Right? Not just to blacken it. Alright? Anyhow. And the last what? The last exception to the rule is what? Menstrual cycle, postnatal bleeding. Menstrual cycle. Right? The moment a woman what experiences her what menstrual cycle, the fast is what? Broken. Right? So we see clearly how this is an exception to the rule. Why? Because we just learned that what? The entrance of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body through a valid entry point nullifies the fast. But here now we see something leaving from another part, right? How come that nullifies the fast? This is based on what? The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, right? That this would nullify the fast, right? So we have what? The principle is what? The reaching, the entrance of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body via valid entry point, which is the mouth, the nose, and the rectum. And the exception to the rule is what? The first, that done forgetfully, fast is still valid. Unavoidable substance, the fast is still valid. Third, what we discussed about the saliva, right? That is still valid. Then what we mentioned about the vomit, right? It goes down on its own. That is still what? Valid. With regards to vomit also, right? If a person were to what? Intentionally vomit, right? A person were to intentionally vomit, meaning what? He induces a vomit, alright, and it is what? A mouthful or more, then his fast is nullified. Man is taqa'a. Right? The person what? Intentionally what? Vomits, and it is a mouthful or more, then that nullifies the fast also. The last one we spoke about is what? Menstrual cycle. The moment a woman experiences a menstrual cycle, the fast what? Is broken. Alright? So, if you go now straight now to what? We can do some like a few what? Clarifications, right? You all would know from what? Early days, right? And this is mentioned in what the classical books of Fiqh also. All the books of Yani Hanafi Fiqh and other Yani Fiqh. That if a person were to apply medicine in the air, the fast will be nullified. Alright? You'll find that in all the what? The classical books of Fiqh. Why? Because at that time, they thought that, listen, there's a direct passageway from the air to the throat. Right? But modern day science, medical science has proven that there is no direct passageway from the outer air to the throat. There's a direct passageway from the inner air to the throat. But there's a separation between the outer air and the inner air, which is called what? The eardrum. Right? So only if a person, his eardrum is perforated, has a hole, and you would know if you have a hole. If his eardrum is perforated, only then his what? Fast will be nullified if he were to apply medicine through his air. Right? So that is a clarification. Right? Second, the other clarification with regards to what? The fuqaha, the jurists of that time, at that time, some of them, not all, they believe that what? From the what? The private part of a woman, that was a direct entrance to what? The intestine. Hence, it mentioned if anything was inserted, medicine, whatever is inserted in that area, right, the fast will be nullified. But that is what? Proven to be what? Incorrect. There's no what? From there, after that chamber, you get what? The womb. The womb is not connected to the intestine. Alright? So if you miss any clarification, we could just what? Skip all of that. Right? Go down. Now, before we go to the second principle, alright, we want to get some what? We go straight to what? The masail, the 100 masail. We just go a few. Right? And you mentioned this is what? Alright? You mentioned if it nullifies the fast or not and why. Right? I'm not calling anybody but answer, don't worry. Alright? I'm sorry he would put the question and answers on record, so don't worry. That is the first one. You go ahead. Injection, vaccination, IV. It nullifies, yes or no? Understand? Forget what you know from before, right? Just pretend what the only knowledge that you have about what nullifies, not nullifies, we're here today, right? So injections, vaccination, IV drips, all these things. Does it nullify or not? Forget 20 years ago, 30 years ago, alright? Based on what you mentioned, the principle, right? The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into what? The cavity of the body, the throat, the stomach, the intestine, through a valid entry point. That nullifies the fast, and we mentioned what these 5-6 exceptions to the rule, right? So the question, injections, IV drips, all these things, does it nullify the fast? Yes or no? Okay, explain, depend on the type of injection.
There are some injections that will change your behavior.
No, but when we speak about this, the first principle we mentioned was the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into what? Into the cavity of the body through a valid entry point. Alright? We didn't mention anything about changing behavior. Alright, that is what? Irrelevant to whether any the fast is nullified or not. Right? Some people, they hear some news and the behavior don't change already. The wife call them and hey, they see that text message and their behavior don't change already.
No, we are talking about that type of change. There are some injections, if you take it, you get actually drunk.
Drunk?
Yes. There are some injections that will send you off.
Okay, they get drunk. Alright? But we go back to the principle again, right? The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body. The cavities of the body, we mentioned the throat, the stomach, and the intestine through a valid entry point, right? Does injections nullify the fast?
No, I think that's the case.
No. Right? Yes, if a person loses his what? He becomes what? Understand? Even if a person becomes unconscious, his fast is still valid. Right? He becomes unconscious, his fast is still valid unless when you put you what? He's what? Administered something that would what? Enter the throat or the stomach that would nullify the fast. Right? So this here doesn't what? Nullify the fast. No vaccine, no injection nullify the fast. Alright? That doesn't nullify the fast. It doesn't what? It doesn't go into what? The stomach. Alright? When you're speaking of understand, yes, it would. The stomach area, it will benefit the body, it will have an effect on the body, but it does not understand. No injection a person takes, it what? Pierces the wall of the stomach and enters the stomach. Right? Even what? Penicillin. Right? Where that is taken, they will say, okay, that is taken in the stomach area. Right? Understand that that is taken in the skin. No injection pierces what? Pierces that skin to the extent that it enters what? The stomach of the individual. That is more of a surgery. Right? There's a Botox, what you call a Botox injection that what? Enters the walls of the stomach. Alright? But generally, injections what? Do enter the walls of the stomach. Right? So that doesn't what? Nullify the fast. Why? Because nothing enters what? The stomach or any of these cavities. Right? Number 2, leave number 3. Applying what? Eye drops. Right? Applying eye drops. Does that nullify the fast? Yes or no? No. We agree with that? Why? Hey, I put no marks on thing, you know. Alright? I don't listen, get it wrong, no problem, but at least what? You understand why I get it wrong. Right? So at the end now we understand, right? What nullifies, what doesn't nullify. And this first factor alone, you don't have to even learn the second one. The second one is you done it in 5 minutes anyhow, right? But most of what nullifies, doesn't nullify is based on this what? This first principle. Right, so the question here, applying eye drops, does that nullify the fast? No, Brother Khalid mentioned, no. Anybody else say yes? But there's a direct passageway from the eye to the throat, not so? So why does it nullify the fast? It enters what? It enters the cavity through a valid entry point, but why does it nullify the fast? There's an exception to the rule, right? That is an exception to the rule, right? It is a fast breaking agent. It does enter the cavity of the body, except this is an exception to the rule based on the hadith of the Prophet. Look at what? Inhaling what? Perfume. Inhaling what? Ether. Perfume. Huh? No, right? Understand, it doesn't have a perceptible body, right? So ether, understand, you can do what qiyas and analogy upon that, right? Ether, perfume, glue, paint, rose, whatever. So that's what, anything could enter your eye, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't what? Nullify the fast, all right? We're not saying that, okay, a person only allowed to put what? Medicine in the eye. If he puts something else in the eye and it enters, no, whatever goes in the eye, water, whatever, enters the eye, does not nullify the fast. Right? You have now what? Miswak, right? Nabi alayhi salatu salam, it comes in hadith that what? He would fast and he would also use what? Miswak. Alright? Kana Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yani yastaku wa huwa sa'im. Yastak, and he used miswak while he's fasting. Right? So a person what? Uses miswak and what? That doesn't what? Yes, he uses the miswak, the natural miswak, and whatever what? Remnants, right? Understand? You use the miswak and as somebody brittles stick up, come out in your what? In your mouth. You don't swallow only brittles. Right? You're allowed to use miswak here, but all these brittles, you know, to what? You need to remove it. Right? So a person allowed to use what? Miswak. Understand? The natural miswak. Understand? In Trinidad, we don't have no natural miswak. Right? All the al-khair and this, whoever you see, is not what? Even you see what? Natural flavor, we mentioned earlier, that what? Even the natural ones, you have what? All has a preservative. Right? All has a preservative. So even though a person what? Using a natural miswak, there is nothing wrong with that. Except that person what? After using miswak, he should rinse his mouth. Right? After using miswak while he's fasting, then he should what? Rinse his mouth. Right, so you can use that, right? Except what? The sweetness and the substance that remains in your mouth, you can't swallow it. Right? You have to spit out that. Yes, that little what? That little remnant after spitting out, right? You don't even have to, if you, it's not necessarily a person have to what? Rinse his mouth, but what? Spit out that substance, right? Spit out that substance. If that substance, understand this is specific to what? Miswak, right? A person what? He spits out that substance, but whatever little what remnants that remains, that does not nullify the fast. As opposed to a person who has what? He has some other thing in his mouth, some toffee or some sweet, and he, you know what? And he just spit it out, and the remnants remain, right? And he swallows that and mixes it with the saliva, and he swallows the fast is nullified. Then his exception is given to what? Natural miswak, right? They spit it out, and whatever remnants, small remnants remain, that doesn't what nullify the fast. Why? It is proven in the hadith that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when he would come for salah, when he would go for salah, he would make miswak, and he would what? Without, how you call it? Rinsing his mouth. Without, he would make miswak and he would lead the salah, right? So, we're not saying you have to go and rinse your mouth, but this miswak, what we're saying that what? Is not, it has what? A substance that remains in it. Even with the natural miswak, it has what? These preservatives, so a person, nothing wrong in using it, but he should what? Spit it out and better, you need to rinse his mouth. Right? Toothpaste and tooth powder and mouthwash. This comes under what? Makruhat. Right? The makruhat of any fast. Why? Understand why the scholars, the jurists, they mention that okay, it is makruh to use toothpaste and to use what? All these tooth powder and how you call this? Mouthwash, right? It's makruh because of two things, right? One is because a person what enters a foreign what? A fast breaking agent into his mouth, right? Without a valid reason then. Just like what the Fiqh would mention, to taste, to put something in your mouth and to chew it up. Right? You chew it up, right? And you spit it out. And you rinse your mouth, right? When that tasting, boy, you went and you chew it up, right? You get the taste of it, and you spit it out, you wash your mouth, your fast still valid, but that is makruh, dislike, right? That is dislike. Understand it? Once it doesn't enter the throat, the fast is still valid, alright? So that person, what he enters, what he puts that fast breaking agent or that any foreign substance in his mouth, right? That is one. Secondly, that person, what he does, he jeopardizes his fast. Understand, until now the fast is not broken, but listen, if that were to accidentally go down, right? You try as much as possible, but what? If it were to accidentally what? Trickle down, the fast is nullified, right? You use what? The toothbrush, the toothpaste, right? And a little bit remain, right? Mixes with the saliva and it enters, the fast is what? Nullified. So that is why they mention it as makruh, right? So my advice, well listen, use your toothbrush, right? And use some water, right? In the morning, make sure and floss, right? Understand, not eating during the day, so you have to worry about between the teeth, right? Floss, that's what the whole precaution, right? At least what this, you finish about 5 minutes before, 10 minutes, right? And what? Floss, clean everything. So during the day now, you have a miswak, use a miswak, right? You don't have a miswak, use what? Toothbrush, right? And you rinse your mouth, right? And if you want to what? If you want to use your toothpaste, but you have to what? I would not recommend at all what? The mouthwash, alright? Because with that now you have to, it reaches all here. The toothbrush, toothpaste, you could probably just restrict it to the front, right? And then rinse it properly and what? And expel it, right? We need to be very, very careful. Rinse properly if you have to use it. Before you start, there's no issue. Alright? Right. So give me some good what? Questions here. Alright? Who want to answer that? You put Vicks in your nose here, and what you inhale what the coolness, right? The Vicks had what? The nostrils here, and you inhale what? The coolness, right? You benefit from the coolness of that. Does that nullify the fast? Huh? No. Uh-huh. Right? So understand? The crystal itself, right? The crystal of what? Don't go enter what? The nostril and come down in the throat. Right? It's like a rose. Right? That fragrance you're going to get. You're going to get a cooling sensation. Right? That does not what? Nullify the fast. Right? What? What enter the how you call it? The Vic, right? The Vicks, right? That substance. Talk about the substance itself. The substance enter the throat. Right? You put it in your nose, but what the substance itself? That sticky substance we're talking about. That substance enter the throat. Right? So the fast nullified? No. You understand? The fast does nullify. A person, for example, an asthma patient, right? The asthma pump. What happens? You have what? The medication, it is a solid, right? That solid now turns to what? A gas, and then enters. That nullifies, right? Because that gas has a perceptible body. That gas, that would what? That would nullify what? It will nullify, how you call it? The fast, right? And this one, there's used what? The puff also, right? That would nullify the fast, right? But the Vicks inhaler, you put Vicks in your nose, that will not nullify the fast. They allowed, understand here. It's not, understand, if a person has to use it, right? Understand, there is no virtue and excellence in what I fasting, and I'm not going to break my fast. I'm not going to use that, right? If I have to die, I will die. Hey, you will die the death of a jahil, an ignorant person. No, you're allowed. You should break. You have to break your fast and take it. So then, that's why we asked the last class if we finished what? The temporary exemptions and the permanent, right? We mentioned what? The temporary exemptions. All temporary exemptions, there's qada, right? So this person is a possibility after what? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, his condition is better, get better. Meaning what? He don't have to use it so often, right? So any type of what? Temporary, when you say temporary exemption, that could last for what? Years and years and years, right? Any temporary exemption, there's qadha. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned, فَإِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, right? That person would have to do it in what? He would have to do that qadha in what? Better days. As for permanent exemption, right? The permanent exemption mentioned what? In the Quran or mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is what? That old person, understand? That old person that is so weak, and every day that goes by, he gets what? Weaker. He's not going to find better days. He would give fidyah. You understand? Normally a person would ask, so at what age what age a man has, okay, to stop fasting? 60 years? 70 years? You have no age limit, right? Is what? The strength that person able to fast or not, right? There are some people, what? 70 years, 8, and them going, right? Man, 50 years, 60 years, and he it differs. So it's not age limit, is what? That person able to fast or not, right? Also, what is a permanent exemption from fasting where a person will give fidyah and is not connected to age is what? A chronic illness. Alright? He is diagnosed with a chronic illness, a lifelong illness. You have to spend the rest of your life like this. Right? That being the case, this is what? Your medication, right? And you cannot what? Withhold what? Substance entering you from what? That long period of time, otherwise it would be what? Detrimental and fatal. Right? The doctor mentioned this is your condition until what? Until you die. You just have to live with it. Alright? So for that person, it could be a young individual. For him now, he doesn't what? He doesn't have better days coming up. Right? So that individual, he will give fidyah. Right? For the entire month, he will give fidyah for this year. Next year, he will give fidyah also. But if after understand as shifa, cure is from the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? Even the doctor mentioned, well, this is your condition, and after 3-4 years, after 4 years he gets cure to the extent that he could fast. So what he paid for the past 4 years still will not serve as an atonement. That will be that will be sadaqah, charity. He will still have to physically do the qada of the previous years. Yeah, I'm looking at the time. I can go to the 8 o'clock, but it's up to you. Listen, I prepared a document 144 pages. We're on page 22, right? But it's okay, right? It's okay. We try to, at least with the questions, right? Sometimes I teach something and you have a question that pertinent, we answer that question too, right? So this is the first one, the first factor. If you just want to take 2 minutes and finish the second factor, or we could have for next week, there is no problem, right? At least if you want to let this one sink in a little bit, right? Next week inshallah, right? Jazakumullah khairan, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.